Hey everyone, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com. I'm here again at Red Ball 2024. I got my good friend here, Scott, who is back with not just one, but two of his V100s because one is never good enough. So, I'll just kick it off to you. Explain where you got this from, the background, which, by the way, I will say, we were talking off camera, it's actually a movie star, so.
That's correct. So, hi John, hi everybody. This V100 was restored by a very dear friend of mine who unfortunately passed away 2 years ago, so we bring it out here in his honor. His name was Jim Green. He did a fantastic job with it. And this vehicle, as John mentioned, is a movie star. It was in the movie, sorry, let the weasel
Yeah, wait till the weasel sits by. I think it's good enough now.
Okay. So this vehicle was used in the movie Free Jack with Emilio Estevez and Mick Jagger.
Awesome movie, by the way.
Oh no, I really can't recommend the movie, but there are some great V100s.
I'll go ahead and loop in. Right now, you're actually going to be seeing clips from the chase scene. Okay. So maybe this one will actually be in that.
Yes, this is the one that crashes through the barricade, and we'll get a picture when we go around and see what it looked like in its movie livery. It was a electric blue with bright lime green.
It looks like it came out of Tron.
Yeah, it's pretty shocking. It's pretty offensive the way they had it painted. But I guess for the purpose of the movie, it's a dystopian science fiction film.
Oh yeah, well it fit the bill, I guess, in that regard.
I don't know why Mick Jagger was in it.
You can't get rid of me that easily.
I think he owed child support payments. He needed the money. But that being said, this vehicle was basically an empty shell, and my friend Jim spent 13 years restoring it inside and out, sandblasting, epoxy primer, painting. This is probably one of the nicest ones I've ever seen as far as the level of detail and craftsmanship, and Jim just did a fantastic job on it. So some of the things to notice the difference between the other V100 that John had done a video on earlier, and this vehicle was set up with a 50 cal and then a 7.62 or 30 cal on the other side of the turret.
And just to be clear, the barrel we have on there is for the M73?
That's correct.
Right.
I have a Browning 1919, so they could use two 1919s or two M37 Brownings in the turret, either one.
Now, can it be possible to have an M2 and an M73? Is that possible?
No, because the way the Browning mounts, for a lot of people who are familiar with the Browning guns, there's a socket or a pin at the front of that goes across the front of the machine gun, like a pivot, and then the elevation pin is at the back. And you need that pin to go all the way across. They used to weld a crossbar, and that would block the M73, which is mounted on a gimbal or a barrel bearing. The M73 is kind of like an MG42.
And by the way, just saying, if anyone's curious how it mounts, I actually did one in 1/6 scale and actually showed the M73 getting locked in place.
Yes,
so yeah.
They're not compatible. And usually what it was when they first put these out in the mid-60s, it was Browning based, and I think the reason why that was done is at the time, the South Vietnamese Army were the exclusive users of these. The Americans really didn't start using them until 1968 or so.
Yeah.
So during 65, 66, 67, they were very Browning focused because most of the Vietnamese weapons were still supporting 30-06 or 30 caliber ammunition. The Americans had pretty much switched to 7.62.
Yeah, we gave them Garands, M1 carbines, 1919s,
so all that stuff.
The whole World War II catalog.
World War II, Korea.
Yeah.
And so the Browning stuff was in their supply chain, and so they kind of set it up that way. And then when the Americans finally adopted it, in mid-68 onward, they used the M73, which is the same gun as a coax on an M60 tank. So now again, you have some supply chain commonality. And of course it ran 7.62, which the M60 machine gun uses.
Well, also, Cadillac Gage, when they designed this thing, they designed it to fit basically anything the customer wanted. From MG42s, MG3s. Yep. I think I even seen one with this turret with an M134 minigun on it. So
yes, and I've seen one with twin M60s in it. They just took the foregrips. So basically it was limited only to your imagination or what you had in theater, or really, I guess, what the soldiers felt most comfortable with as far as being reliability, durability, and accuracy, if they had to feel confident using the vehicle.
And then later on with the V150, which was the one that superseded this one, they always have dual GPMGs or FM mags in them.
Yes,
so,
yes, they got more modern into the later 70s. That was kind of the successor vehicle. So,
yeah.
Some other interesting features on this vehicle. It has a non-skid surface on the top, so people may notice that.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. We were talking whether or not that's legit for Vietnam.
It's tough to tell. A lot of photos in Vietnam, as John and I have discussed this, the color quality is a little bit grainy on some of the films. It depended on where the soldier got the film, the quality of the film, the quality of developing, the age of the photograph. This may have been done later, but I can tell you from a practicality standpoint,
yeah,
I think I'm going to do this to my other vehicle because with semi-gloss paint, which is correct, and you step on this when it's wet like you're trying to wash the vehicle, it's really treacherous. That other one's really slippery.
Yeah.
This gives you so much more confidence
well, that's why they do it nowadays on the Bradleys and the Abrams, and it's the same
from a
thing.
safety perspective, it's
but just to be clear, for a time period, we're not sure. By the way, just kick this out there to the chat. Anyone out there is a Vietnam veteran and served on one of these? I know if you guys watch my videos.
Love to know that.
Feel free to put that in the comment section below. It'll be very interesting.
And don't get a hold of John and send him some pictures, because we'd like to see that stuff. The photos from Vietnam veterans are the best thing. They're really important to have.
Yeah, it's good to archive that stuff.
So the rest of this vehicle, again, this one, like my other one, has been upgraded with Goodyear AT2A modern tires. We drive this on the street. So you need a DOT approved tire, not the paddle tires like they came with in Vietnam.
And you do have the Commando specials. You're always trying to hawk them off.
Yes, I know. I'm trying to donate those to a museum. So if you're at a museum, I will donate them to the museum. You pay to ship them. They're about 300 or some odd pounds a piece, but I have 4 of them, and they're dated from the late 60s. So if you have a display vehicle, I would not recommend them for driving them on the street, obviously, because they're 55-year-old tires.
Which is ironic, because they're bulletproof up to like 20 millimeter.
Well, yeah, I mean, and they have an inner tube in them. There probably would be no problem. They're so thick, you're not gonna have to worry about a crack side.
I mean, those things are like literally like
they're
this thick of rubber. Yeah, it's crazy.
They're really,
but
they'd be a great display tire for somebody. I'm never going to use them, and I don't see a use for them, and I don't want to just throw them out. So if you're a charitable institution or museum, let me know. I'll donate the tires to you. The other part of this vehicle that's kind of cool, this vehicle's had a little bit better restoration as far as the engine compartment for military, the military format, how it was in Vietnam. So these things had a big heavy-duty frame. It's a Fram commercial air cleaner. The military reused a lot of parts, obviously, for supply chain ease.
And that's still done today with the Striker. Like we were talking about that before, yeah.
Yeah, off the shelf. Anything they can buy off the shelf. So the air can's located up high in the hull because it's amphibious, and that way, if you got water in the engine compartment,
it's not going to drown out.
It would be. You'd have to have water this deep before it would.
In that case, you got bigger problems.
You got a bigger problem. You should be swimming, not driving. And this vehicle also has. It's kind of tough to see inside, but there's a waterproof bell that fits over the top of the carburetor.
It's a little tricky to get in this lighting. It's there. I see it, guys. So trust me.
And you can see there's the military distributor and these big, thick. You can see they're as big as my finger. These spark plug wires, and they screw onto the plug, so these are waterproof. They're not like a rubber boot like on your normal car.
They kind of look like the things you see on airplanes with the connectors where you screw them together.
They're like really heavy-duty vehicles, or heavy-duty plug wires. And again, the goal was to be waterproof in case they got water in the engine.
And that's why we had these ducts up here.
Yep, little ducts on the top. Now you can see the other one later on. I think this was after the war in the early 70s when these went back to the arsenal for rebuild at Letterkenny or Tooele Army Depot. They added that 40-inch shroud.
Yeah, so when you have a high angle, when you're going up an embankment,
up a river bank, and you go backwards, you can see here you can be prone to get some water down into the bay. And you know, this is vented at the bottom to let the water out. But if you ever got a big surge of water, if you slid back off a bank, ostensibly that would help you. But then they put the holes through it for the exhaust tips anyhow. So
to be fair, less water probably get in compared to just whoosh, you know, with the other
ways. If you get that big wave, it would just stop. And again, for highway safety, it's been outfitted with a backup light. I have a backup light on mine as well, just for safety. And the rest of the vehicle that has a swivel mount.
We're talking about that before. Now, when you got the vehicle, did it have the mount in place?
It did not have any mount on it.
Okay, so you just wanted to roll with an extra M60, because why not?
And the goal with this was, you know, the problem is when you try to restore these and set them up, there's some drawbacks to where the M60 is mounted on that one. With regard to opening the hatch, getting the antennas up and down, and there's some drawbacks where it's mounted on this one.
And I've ridden on the 60 gunner position, which is going to be another video that posts. And yeah, I could relate. It's kind of weird. I can imagine opening up and whacking the buttstock.
So you have to like have the antenna up, the gun swung out, then you can open and close. So if you get caught in a rainstorm, it's a little bit of it's kind of like a Three Stooges routine to get the door shut if you were in a hurry. But you know, most of the time in Vietnam, nobody cared about getting wet. It's an amphibious vehicle.
I mean, it also does have the clamp over there. You just tighten that down, and the MG is fixed.
Yes, you can stabilize it. And in Vietnam, I think they always had the antennas up. We're obviously in a more modern setting, and you have to be very careful about some of the power lines around here. From a safety perspective. Because that's probably 14, 15 feet in the air.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty tall.
You have to be aware of that. So,
they're pretty tall.
And this vehicle had similar to the other setup with the smaller antenna for the 442 receiver.
And then you got the AES spring antenna base right over there.
Yeah,
so we got the big 6707 antenna base for the 524 radio. And so we got all the radios working in these vehicles now. That's something we just finally got the radio set up, so it's really nice if you're doing a convoy run.
Is the radio full function? So
yes, full function.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
We got them all set up. The intercoms work, and we can talk between vehicles.
Oh, that's awesome. So. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, because you know, even when you're convoying, sometimes most people are very courteous when you're driving this. They're very respectful of you. when they see this coming down.
By the way, just as a reference, my town put not one but 2 roundabouts up this road that way.
Yes, we went through those.
So that's going to be fun with these two.
Yeah, it was. You know what? The people were very well behaved, but we came through like at 11 in the morning.
Yeah.
So I think we were kind of off rush hour and before the lunchtime rush.
Well,
it's a very busy road.
It's right in front of an American high school, so
Yeah.
American high school with a roundabout. Good luck with that. So,
So
let's see. If anything, you should come here like 2 o'clock on a weekday. 'Cause that's when school comes out. That would be fun.
We got in just right, and we're going to try to leave early tomorrow morning on Sunday, so we should dodge the mayhem there as well.
Yeah, you'll be all right.
But similar to the other vehicle, you know, you have the intercom system in the back, crash pads over the windows, the pistol ports. I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with some of the features on the vehicle.
Yeah, by the way, if anyone's curious, I did a bunch of walkarounds of the other V100, and also Scott here walked us through with that. So if you're curious on exactly what the inside of that one looks like, I recommend checking out those videos as well.
Yeah.
Quick shameless plug.
Yeah. So I had these vehicles went down to Washington D.C. for a display at the National Mall.
It's Memorial Day, right?
It was the 50th anniversary of the end of the Vietnam War. So
Yeah.
it was last year. It was 1973 to 2023. And we had this vehicle on the mall, and a Vietnam veteran who was a military policeman in Vietnam came up and looked at it, and his comment was, "Well, I don't know, there's just something not right about it." And he said, "Let me think about it." And he walked away, and he came back about an hour later. He said, "You know what that is?" He said, "It's so clean inside." I had no idea that it was like that shade of green. He said, "Because ours was like a filthy, muddy brown all over the inside." So I thought that was, obviously this is maintained and restored a little bit higher degree.
It literally is in gore. Both of them are in beautiful condition.
This was a real labor of love. My friend Jim did an outstanding job on it, and it's such a wonderful gift when he departed that he left this to me. But it's also very bittersweet. I miss him dearly.
Yeah, I mean, his legacy lives on.
His legacy lives on. We have it out. It went down to Washington D.C. to honor the veterans. We do Memorial Day parade, July 4th parades, and my brother-in-law Bob is the driver of this one.
Hey, Bob.
So we're able to get it out and really celebrate, Jim's legacy and his real craftsmanship. It's just stunning.
Now, this one, I remember we were talking. This one have to be rewelded somewhere on the front, or
he had a crack up on the front on the hull. Just about all of them did. I think we talked about this in the last.
We did,
video.
yeah. The Cadillac. Yeah.
With a monocoque chassis and the Cadillac, it's a hardened armor plate. It tends to make it a little bit brittle. So while you get it to be bulletproof, which is awesome, you lose some of the ductility. And with a monocoque chassis and the leaf springs mount directly into the monocoque chassis,
got some torsion going on.
You get some torsion, you get some flexion right over the wheel opening, and it's not uncommon. I'd say probably 50% of the V100s I've seen have had a crack in them.
Now, I wonder if that was ever resolved on the V150s.
I don't know. That's a great question.
That's actually,
and I know it's very significant. There's a large part of the Dash 2.4 service manual, technical manual for these books that talks about welding cracks in the hull. So
anticipated.
They had some problems, but it's a teething pain. Remember, these were built and put into war very quickly.
And also keep in mind, they're still even like 60 years later. These things are still in service.
Oh, absolutely.
All over the world. Yeah.
Asia Pacific.
So it'll be interesting.
South America.
And then Cadillac Gage, even though the U.S. Army wasn't using them after Vietnam, they were still having plenty of foreign sales. That was when the V150 came in.
Absolutely.
They had the one with the Cochrane 90mm turret. And all those.
The wider turret.
Yeah, those were cool.
Yeah, very cool vehicle. So, and of course, Cadillac Gage is now Textron.
Cadillac Gage.
And they make the ASV.
Yes, they do.
And if you know about the M1117 ASV, this is the grandfather of that vehicle. So.
It quite literally is, yeah.
Hi, Gary. Gary's the owner of the E2 version over there.
Hey, Gary.
Oh, hi, John. Hi, Scott.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, Bob.
By the way, Gary's in a video. I interviewed him for his awesome E2 version of the V100, the Air Force variant.
Yes, you did.
Which, by the way, I just want to get on camera. It would look big, awesome with a linebacker pattern like an F4 Phantom.
Right.
Just throwing that out there.
Helpful suggestions from the audience.
Come up with volunteers.
If you need me to paint it, yo, I'm your boy. I'll paint
1-to-1 scale. You're moving up.
Moving on up.
6 to 1-to-1. You're gonna need a bigger paintbrush, though. It's
I'm team airbrush, so I'm good to go.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
Yeah.
So again, this vehicle is pretty similar to the other vehicle from your last video. In theory, they can seat 11 people. 3 on each side, 1 in the turret, a driver and a vehicle commander in the front, a radio operator, and a guy in the back hatch on the guns. It would be a very crowded 11 people. Typically in Vietnam, these were a driver, a gunner in the turret, and then a person on the back with the M-706.
Well, these, because they weren't used as APCs, they were used as just convoy protection because of
armored fighting vehicle.
Yeah.
A lot of the South Vietnamese would crew them as an APC.
And with their smaller stature, it probably was perfect for them.
And Bob and I had the pleasure when these were down in Washington. There were South Vietnamese
ARVN
veterans, and their children were there, and they're about our age now, in their 50s, because the war was 50 some odd years ago. And 2 or 3 of those guys got in the vehicle, and it was amazing how easy it was for them to move around.
It's like a clown car. In a way.
Well, they just, and they could just move around effortlessly inside.
Yeah, no, this was the perfect vehicle for Vietnam.
It absolutely is.
Just like how the one that came afterwards, one that the U.S. Army is using now, is the perfect vehicle for it's same type of role.
Yes.
So it's funny how that works.
The ergonomics are not really favorable if you're beyond 5'7" and maybe 140 pounds. Beyond that, it's going to be a little bit. I always have the bumps and scrapes from.
Well, that's why I think the modern one's bigger. It's physically larger.
The ASV?
Yeah.
Okay, so great story here. I had this out at a car show, and a guy came up who was in ASVs.
Okay.
And I said, "Well, get in," and he said, "It is so much bigger inside the older vehicle."
Oh wow.
Because
less stuff on the less crap.
Air conditioning.
Yeah.
Computers, the feed system for the 40mm grenade launcher that they have on it, and the 50 cal.
Yeah.
He couldn't believe how much more room there was. I think dimensionally it's bigger, but on the inside, if anybody's ever been in a tank, you'll know they look big on the inside or on the outside, but when you get inside of them.
And just again, throwing this out there, any vets out there who served on those?
Yes.
Go ahead.
About the ASV.
The comment. Let rip in the comment section.
Yes, leave a note in the comment section. I have an N of 1 on that, so I'll qualify my statement. But the gentleman who was a rack veteran in the ASVs, he thought this was bigger inside.
Yeah.
But there was some distance of time, obviously, between when.
And also, the crews nowadays all have Kevlar. They have
body armor.
Yeah. So
the guys are bigger now.
Yeah, and they are.
Generally, they're bigger guys, and I think they're probably better physical shape too, as far as the muscle mass. So, and that's probably about it. Everything else is pretty similar on the other vehicle. Detroit lockers front and rear, single speed transfer case. You can either do 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, 5-speed manual transmission. It's a new process 542 box. They started with a 541 right after the war. Around 1970, 71, they went to a 542. It's basically they just beefed up the internal, same external dimensions, but it's the original 5-speed manual transmission, hydraulic clutch.
And the differentials?
Differentials, they're 6.72 Rockwell differentials, very similar to a deuce and a half.
Okay.
Same chunk, same exterior dimensions, but they have 19 spline axle shafts instead of 16.
And would this classify as having power steering? Because you have that hydraulic, because you have the hydraulic actuator.
Yeah, so there's a power steering pump that's mounted on the hydraulic pump on the side of the motor.
Yeah.
It's driven mainly very much like a power steering pump on a commercial car or a regular vehicle you're used to, and then that provides hydraulic pressure for the steering and also for the hydraulic winch up front.
Yeah.
And you can steer it with one finger. It's really not hard to drive the.
And I've ridden this one twice so far, and it's a smooth ride.
Well, you're going to drive it now, so I hope you're ready. I assume you can drive a stick.
Yeah, about that. The most stick I've driven is a Cat D4. And but a vehicle.
Well, you're in a pretty safe space here. I don't think.
Yeah. This is gonna be fun.
What could go wrong? That's my motto.
As long as you're okay with your gearbox.
Oh, you're not gonna hurt it. It's pretty tough. They're pretty tough. They're pretty durable. The biggest thing is get used to the clutch. Every clutch let out is different. No matter what, everybody who's driven a stick will tell you that.
All right. Well, there you go.
But yeah, I mean, it's really a fairly low effort vehicle.
And they are quiet. Again, like we were talking before. What you actually hear more is the fan sucking the air in and blowing it out.
A big pusher fan.
You don't really hear the engine so much.
No, well, it's all sealed inside a box, and it's gasoline, so it's quieter than a diesel.
Yeah.
And then everything underneath is sealed. It's in a sealed hull, like a inboard-outboard engine on a boat.
Yeah. No, it's very well insulated.
Muffled,
very well insulated.
which is a great thing.
Yeah.
Stealth is a good thing.
Oh yeah.
So
ventilation's excellent. I will say that.
Yeah, as long as you're up and moving, it's okay. It gets a little hot by the end of the day in the sunshine.
Yeah, I bet. And that's here in the Poconos. I can only imagine in Southeast Asia.
Yeah. I mean, here it's probably we got maybe 75, 80 today with low humidity.
All right, so picking up where we left off. Okay, so the last one you had a problem with your fuel tank.
Yeah. So this one I'm still waiting to restore. So because the fuel tanks are integral with the hull, they're not removable. So it isn't like a gas tank on a car where you can undo the straps, lower the tank, and then recondition it. These have to be reconditioned as is in position on the vehicle because it's a welded off compartment of the hull.
Yeah.
So the challenge is, when I first did the other side, both the tanks were rusty because they were old, they're 50 plus years old, they've had water leak in. The other side I had to do manually by going up to your armpit.
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier.
Cleaning the tank, and I will never do that again. It was a very undesirable task. So now that the vehicle's roadworthy and on the road and running, the project this fall, after we're done with the car show season here, is to take it to the local sandblaster and have them put the nozzle down inside. And if they can clean 80% of the tank, I'm going to be really excited because that makes the job much more manageable.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, I
And then,
went to my elbow.
that in combination with all the other fuel filters you got in this thing will be good.
Yeah, that's right. And then when you put the Pour 15 sealant in the tank, it's like brand new.
Yeah.
You can drink water out of it. It will be that clean. So.
Although I don't recommend that.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So this one here, the fuel system was in way better condition, right?
Yeah, so this one, both the tanks have been done here under the armored covers. And the other interesting feature of this vehicle, and maybe John can work the camera on the inside, is this one had fuel tank gauges that were not used until the V150 that John talked about. It's a 1970 variant.
Okay.
And if you look up on the fender,
Let me see. Can I see through here?
you may have to climb up in the vehicle.
Yeah, hang on. Let me read.
We're done. This vehicle for the knocked over
All your vintage,
my vintage
Pepsi cans, yeah.
Pepsi cans for display. So what happens with these is there's a long metal rod with a mechanical float that goes forward through the wall of the hull into the fuel tank.
Right over here?
Yep, and that's where the fuel tank, the front of that, and if you pan your camera forward, you can see the fittings in there, both for the vent of the tank is right above
Yeah,
it to
yeah,
the
here's
left.
the vent, yeah.
That's the vent.
And this comes all the way up to here, and it bleeds out right here underneath
That's
the hatch.
correct. So yeah, no smoking around that on a hot day.
Yeah.
So yeah, those gauges are really handy because normally when these vehicles were first made, you could see the fittings forward on the hull. There's an upper and a lower fitting.
Yeah, yeah, right over
There's that
here.
upper, and then
Right.
you see right below the fire extinguisher there was a lower, and see it's blocked off.
Yeah, yeah, I see
And they
it.
used to have a clear plastic tube that acted as a sight gauge for how
That
full
was probably
the fuel
helpful
tank.
when new, but 60 years later.
Well, yeah, not that. I think military fuel was dyed a different
Ooh.
color. So
Oh,
with
yeah,
normal
yeah.
modern gasoline, commercial gas, they were almost invisible, and I don't like having gas inside the.
Yeah,
driving
that would
compartment.
be less than.
So these gauges are pretty nice. They're moderately accurate. They're pretty good. Of course, you know, nothing beats opening the tank and using the calibrated eyeball to make sure you don't run out.
Dipstick.
Yeah, but it's got a left and right tank selector. So if you run out of one tank, and that's located over underneath the dashboard.
Yeah, I see you got another one right here.
Yeah, so there's both gauges on either side, and then the selector's down under the dash. You'll see a.
Yep, right here.
It says left, right, and off.
Yeah, that one, right.
Yeah, so you can.
So this one's for which tank?
So that's on the right tank right now. It should be
I
pointing
see.
off to the right.
I see. There it is.
And you can switch it on the fly as you run low on one tank
And here goes
and use the other tank.
instrument panel. Here you have your standard US GI ignition.
Yeah, everything's pretty much military standard. You'll see MS. I mean, there's been some additions to this vehicle as far as the tachometer.
I'm pretty sure that's not original.
That was for the backup camera, and that was like a pilot we did because normally in Vietnam you had a crew,
Yeah.
and you could have somebody on a headset telling you it was safe to back up.
Right.
But in this case, if you're on your own and you're at a car show and it's a crowded environment, people tend to get excited.
It's beneficial.
It's very beneficial to have a backup camera.
it
So that
definitely
was
is.
our pilot. I like it, so we're going to do it. We're going to put in a more permanent, maybe with like an iPad screen in there.
Yeah.
From a safety
I also,
perspective.
by the way, love the XM177 over here. It's pretty slick.
Yeah, it's got some cool guns. There's an M79 that's supposed to be in there. I'm still trying to find one. There's a company called Kraft Apple Works that made a good M73 or M79.
I mean, there's also that airsoft one.
Yeah, it is airsoft.
That airsoft one's
And they're
pretty
really
good.
nice. And
Yeah.
of course, like everything else, they're out of business and they're very hard to find.
Of
like
course,
all the other good
of course.
stuff in life.
I think there was another one. I forgot the name of it. It was some Japanese one, but yeah, they're pretty cool.
plane or helicopter.
Oh, one thing. Your brother told me that the winch on this one is technically wrong, and this one has the right winch.
Well,
or something?
it's not the winch, it's the cable end.
Oh,
so this
okay.
has been a raging debate.
Okay.
Because the challenge is in Vietnam, a lot of the pictures are in the shadow.
Yeah.
Because of the slope. And the winches are both correct. The 10-ton
There she
or
is.
10,000 pound winch. But the challenge with this is the cable ends were usually changed, or if they got ripped off or broken in
And they
Vietnam.
wear out. It's a
They
wear
wear
out,
out.
yeah.
And after the war, they probably updated a lot of stuff. But yeah.
All right.
It works, and hopefully you don't need the winch. Don't get it stuck.
All right. Well, that's basically all there is to it. So apparently, I'm going to take this one for a spin. That's
Yeah.
gonna be fun to do.
Yes.
And from that wraps up this video for this interview with my good friend Scott here. And I'll be seeing you all guys all again next year in 2025.
Be back.
And that's really all there is to it. Oh, as a quick plug, I actually did a thorough walk-around video of this vehicle right here. It's going to be posted before this video drops, and I also have all the photographs I took of this one as well as with the other one, and they're going to be posted on the ECA Facebook page. And with that wraps up this video, so I'll have Scott sign us off on this one.
Thanks, John. We'll see you soon.
All right, there you have it. All right, guys, take care. Peace out.